While a group of religious scholars here in the U.S. are calling for the destruction of ISIS. The online petition signed by Reverend Russell Moore of the Southern Baptist Convention and others says none of us glorifies war, but warns that nothing less can stop the Islamic militants' campaign of genocide against religious minorities and unconscionable acts of barbarism against defenseless women and children. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, that's a courageous statement from religious leaders, and with us now is one of the signers of that statement calling for the destruction of the Islamic State. Professor Robert George is a member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. He's been called America's most influential conservative Christian thinker, widely respected professor at Princeton. And Dr. George, I'm delighted to have you with us today. Could you tell us what led to that statement, or what finally got you to that point?
It's the atrocities being committed against Christians, Yazidis, and other members of religious minorities, and even members of the Sunni majority in Iraq by the so-called Islamic State. These are tyrants and murderers. They commit rape. They torture. Their victims include innocent women and children. They include elderly people. And they are a kind of fanaticism that means they cannot be negotiated with. They must be stopped. And that's why our statement at IraqRescue.org calls for the destruction of ISIS, the Islamic State, as a fighting force. Nothing short of that will do. We mustn't kid ourselves, Pat. These people mean business. They tell us what they're going to do, and then they do it. We would be fools to stop short of anything but the destruction of this military force.
You know, there was a time that religious leaders were pacifists. They didn't concur with war. But what you're saying is that this group is so evil that it just has to be destroyed. And destroyed means they've got to be killed.
Well, that's what we need to do in order to protect innocent women, children, and other victims. Christians, Yazidis, Kurds, even members, as I say, of the Sunni majority. All of these people are being victimized, and victimized in a genocidal way, being wiped out as communities by these monsters. This is not a case of us Christians or us Americans against Islam. As your setup indicated, Islamic leaders throughout the Middle East are calling for the destruction of ISIS as well. We have no choice here. We must join across international bounds. The United States shouldn't do this alone, but in solidarity with other nations across the globe to stop this. This beheading, this horrible beheading, is just a single example of what goes on hundreds of times, Pat, every day in Iraq today. And they have no intention, ISIS, Islamic State, has no intention of stopping in Iraq. They mean to go on to Syria, throughout the Middle East, and they mean to carry out terrorist attacks in Europe and in the United States. These people do not idly threaten. When they threaten, as they have threatened, they make their threats. We must stop them now.
Well, I couldn't concur more. What do you think we're going to have to do? I mean, I think the president's a little reluctant to put so-called boots on the ground. We're looking to the Peshmerga to do the heavy lifting. Would you recommend more American troops, more deeper involvement to get this job done?
At this point, I don't believe that we do need American troops on the ground. The American public is very war-weary. We have not been happy about the way things have gone in Iraq. Many, many mistakes have been made. There's no point here trying to apportion blame between President Bush and President Obama or military leaders in Iraq. We need to be looking at what needs to be done now and looking to the future. I don't believe that we need American boots on the ground right now. I hope that we'll never need them. But we do need increased air support. We need airstrikes. The airstrikes defending and assisting the Kurds and the Sunni tribesmen and other fighters against ISIS have been useful. They've been very helpful, intensified, to be increased. We can also provide vital intelligence and strategic support to the Kurds and the others who are resisting ISIS. So let's do that. Let's join with the international community in doing that, and let's stop these people now. Let's hope it doesn't come to the need to send American troops. But if it does, we're going to have to stop them. We're going to have to fight them somewhere. Do we want to fight them in New York or in Washington, D.C., terrorist attacks, or should we fight them and defeat them in Iraq, joined with the international community? I say the latter.
I totally concur. Dr. George, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it very much.